Mini skirt on, dip my body in glitter. Platform sneakers, all the boys want a picture. Two foreign cars, I make rich look richer. Save your breath, baby, I'm not going home with ya. Mini skirt on, dip my body.
Hello. You're now tuned in to the A Little Bit A Lot podcast. I'm your host, Kristen, and welcome back to another episode. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are staying warm and staying cozy, because just like last week, we are still going through the gags this winter, especially here in Michigan. It is crazy. Like, the roads have just been so awful. There hasn't been much salt to go around. What's up with that? My boyfriend said that there's allegedly like a salt shortage. What is going on? The roads are icy, the house down. We are slipping and sliding and gliding, and it's getting very concerning out here. So I hope you guys are staying safe and, keeping it cute this winter. Just staying in the cribbo, because safety first, like, geez Louise. And the fact that the temperatures have been negative is crazy. So because I've been inside pretty much like this winter, because it's literally been brutal outside, you guys may have noticed I've been watching a lot more TV, right? I'm not usually like a big TV watcher. Like, I am, but at the same time, I just feel like this much consistent TV where I've been able to finish like series this quickly has just kind of been like a new thing for me. And I think it's because, like I said, I've been staying inside, this winter. So I figured we would come back this week and we would talk about yet another TV series that I finished, okay? Like, my ADHD is so proud of me right now. The fact that I had the attention span to get through 2 TV series within the last 2 weeks, that's unheard of for me personally, right? Like, this is giving a new record. So I just finished watching the new Netflix limited series called His and Hers. And I was really intrigued about watching this because it's got the one guy in it that plays the Punisher from Marvel. I loved the show, The Punisher. And then I also just finished watching Daredevil. I think it's called Born Again. And Punisher is also in that as well. That show was really good because I had already watched Daredevil when it was on TV before. Or was it Netflix? And then now it's on Disney. And the, show is continuing on. So he does really good in that. And then, of course, I think her name is Tessa Thompson, right? We love her as well. Another fellow Marvel girly. So I was like, we definitely need to check this out. And if you guys, didn't watch last week's episode, like I said, I watched and reviewed another limited series called All Her Fault. And that one's on Peacock. So be sure to check that out after you finish this episode if you're interested to see, my thoughts on that other show. But I just wanted to give you guys my overall thoughts on this one. So let's just jump into it. We've also got some nonsense going on with, of course, Nicki Minaj, and, this conversation about her being MAGA. It's very concerning. Some questionable things have been going down, not only this last month or so, but just honestly the last couple of years. And I felt like it was time for me to address it and state my stance on the issue. So we're going to, get into that. And then, of course, I have a couple things on my list to share with you guys for my favorite thing of the week. So that's kind of, the schedule, right, for today's episode. So let's get into it. But before we do, if you're new here, hello. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. And if you're not new here, welcome back. Okay, it's so good to see you. Grab a drink, grab a snack, sit down, get cozy, because we got some things to cover, okay? So if you are watching this episode on YouTube, be sure to give this episode a big like. It really helps the channel. Comment down below to let me know, what did you think about this Netflix show? Were you gagged? Did the plot twist, get you? Were you clutching your pearls like I was? Because I was going through it, okay? This show took me through it in the short time that we spent watching it. And subscribe, okay? I am so close to my first 1K subscribers. I'm at like 850 or something like that right now. So if you could please subscribe if you aren't already, I would really, really appreciate it. It's free, you know what I mean? So why not do it? It's literally free 99 to hit that subscribe button. And if you subscribe, that means that you get to be a part of a community where we talk about mental health, pop culture, movie, music, TV shows, and more. Like, if that sounds like the type of community that you want to be in, where it's a safe space to be yourself and just kiki, then subscribe and turn the post notifications on so that way you're not missing an episode. Episodes of this podcast come out every Friday, and then on Wednesdays on my YouTube channel, we also have game nights, and we stream at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Right now, and I'm in the middle of playing the Walking Dead video game, and that has been crazy. So if you guys want to join me on Wednesday nights too, and that sounds like something, that you're interested in, then go ahead and join. But you gotta subscribe, okay? Don't be scared to do it. And if you're listening on Spotify and Apple, thank you. Rate that 5 stars, leave a review to let me know what you think about the show. So let's get into it. When it comes to his and her, as you guys know, I already had to compile my notes. So I wanted to start off by saying that I was really glad that this was a limited series. It's set in Georgia, and honestly, I'm just, like I said, really glad that it only had 6 episodes, because for me, the ADHD of it all, it's a perfect length. It's just enough time for you to like fully be able to jump into the story, get invested, and then get confused, get stressed, and then that way you have everything wrapped up at the end without them like dragging it out, like it's just the perfect little like gift wrapped up in a bow for you. And to give like a brief overview, the show follows a girl named Anna, who's played by Tessa Thompson. Like I said, she's a former news anchor, and she's living in Atlanta, ATL. And basically, after disappearing from her career and her personal life, she overhears about a murder in Dahlonega. It's a small town that she grew up in, and she gets pulled back into the world of reporting and into a past that she clearly has not dealt with. So then that's where things get kind of messy, because the detective that's assigned to the case is Jack Harper, and that's her estranged husband. So you're like, ooh, okay. Like that's, that synopsis, is that the right word? Is enough to get me pulled in to see what's going on with this case, because now I'm really realizing, like I said last week, I'm feeling the murder mysteries and the murder thrillers, right? Like, let's get down, boots on the ground, crack our knuckles, and get to the bottom of this case and figure out who did it, right? Like, who's responsible for these crimes. So before I get into this, I just want to give a warning, #spoiler alert. Okay, if you have not finished the show and you care about spoilers, then make sure you finish it and then come back to this episode, so we can kiki and we can, share our thoughts with each other, right? I tell you guys what I thought, you tell me what you thought in the comments. So I want to start off with, sharing my first impressions of the characters on this show. Like, I'm going to be honest, right? Like, at first, I did not like either of the main characters. I don't know if that's like a controversial take, but it's just how I felt, right? Because then you have Jack, who is the main detective on the case. Like I said, he just immediately felt suspicious to me because, when he was at the crime scene, he kept telling his partner, don't follow hunches. We're going with the facts. We're going with the cold, hard facts. You see a hunch, you think you know something, you don't actually know nothing. It's like the energy that he was giving. So I'm like, okay. But then it's like contradictory bootsy, because at the same time, in the same breath, he turned around and did exactly that by immediately blaming the victim's husband. So it's like, I thought we weren't following hunches, right? Like, what's going on here? So from the jump, that just made me side-eye him really hard. And then we end up finding out why he was acting so weird, because he was sleeping with the victim. And then not only that, he slept with her the night that she was killed. So, of course, then I'm like, all right, like, is he the killer? Like, what? And that's one thing about the show where it was like, I'm always trying to figure it out before we get to the end and come up with my own conclusion. And this one really had me, kind of for a doozy, because at this point I'm thinking everybody that we see is responsible. I'm like, okay, well then maybe it's them, maybe it's them, maybe it's them. I'm like, I don't know, bruh. Like, I don't know what to believe. Like, clutching my pearls, like, what's going on? Holding my breath until we get a solution, because this is crazy, right? So, like I said, I was just thinking, like, maybe Jack is the killer, like, off rip, because, like I said, for the entire series, he's hiding evidence. But then he also, was acting suspicious, and it was just strange to me that he realized that the victim's phone was in his car, because, like I said, he was sleeping with her. And so then he goes to the morgue, which I thought was crazy. And him lying about losing his wedding ring just so he can open the dead victim's eyes to unlock her phone was like, huh? And then on top of that, the antics continue. The antics continue. The horrors persist with Jack. Because after he did that, then he even faked his DNA mouth swab, right? They wanted to know everybody that was on the crime scene. Because I guess they also found semen on the victim. So they're like, okay, just to make sure we, dot all our I's, cross all our T's, we need that mouth swab, right? He ended up using his mouth swab on his little baby niece so that way he wouldn't be tied to the crime. Like, sir, what's going on? And then we have Anna, right? Like I said, I didn't really like either main character at first. So with her, she came off as kind of cold, and I felt like entitled at first. No shade, no tea, right? And the only reason why I felt like this was because she had been gone from her job for over a year. And then she completely vanished. And then she came back and then had the audacity to act offended when her position was filled. And then she demanded to be back in the field as a reporter, like nothing happened. So at first I was like, girl, be serious right now. Like, BFFR. Like, you think your big things popping, a little thing stopping, that you could just waltz back up in here and snap your fingers, click your toes, and everybody's supposed to do exactly what you say. But that's when the story progresses, and then we learn exactly why she disappeared. And we find out that her and her husband, Anna and Jack, they lost their child to crib death. People don't exactly know the cause of crib death, but oftentimes it involves, your baby falling asleep, and then they pass away in their sleep. So that's already traumatizing, like, as it is. So she, after her child died, like, she completely shut down. And so then once that's revealed, then I'm like, okay, right? Like, everything about her character makes sense going forward. Like, her detachment, her anger, her inability to connect, because, like, we know that, like, grief really changes people. And, she ran away because she did not know how to survive that. And I'm like, okay, like, that's understandable. I get that. But, it also threw me when Anna found out, well, when we found out that Anna and Jack were actually married. Because the way that they initially interact with each other at that crime scene, he's the detective on the case, like I said. She pulls up, okay, I'm giving field reporter. Boots on the ground. I need to investigate for the news so that people can know what's going on. They interact with each other. I'm thinking they're strangers. They acting like they barely know each other, but they're actually husband and wife. So I'm like, huh? Like, this dynamic is very strange. And then you see that, like, not only is their dynamic strange, like, y'all are supposed to be husband and wife, but y'all barely acting like you know each other. But then on top of that, you're sleeping with other people. You're barely communicating. And there's just so much, like, obvious tension and resentment between them. But then again, we later learn that this all ties back together, to their daughter, because, Anna ran away to grieve alone, and then Jack spent months trying to find her. So we end up basically finding out that they weren't really giving each other space, right, to grieve in the way that they needed to individually. And, like, that miscommunication in itself basically destroyed their marriage. So I'm like, okay, like, the dots are connecting, right? And I also wrote down a note and I said, shout out to Jack's detective partner, okay? Like, I really liked what she added to the show. because one, it's just nice to be able to see like a girl in this position where it seems to be like a male dominated career field. But she, was really trying her best to do her job and be good at her job. And I think that she had every right to be suspicious of Jack. Like, she ends up catching him lying. She notices, the DNA swab drama. She sees him cancel requests for the victim's call logs. So, she starts thinking Jack might be the killer. And I'm like, yeah, like, that's completely valid because he's literally acting sus. And then we go forward and we have the quote unquote, I call it, could this have been avoided moment, right? Like, what really got me was how it only took one real conversation between Anna and Jack to realize that their marriage fell apart because they didn't know how to grieve together. They didn't know how to grieve together as a couple, as husband and wife, as a mom and dad, as a unit. And then, like, once they figure that out and they finally have that conversation and they hold that space to put everything out on the floor, then they immediately hook up. So it's kind of like, okay, it just is getting frustrating to me at that point because it makes you think, like, could all of this, been avoided if they had just communicated earlier, right? But then again, you got to give them grace because grief does, shut people down in ways that don't always make sense, right? Like, it quite literally changes you as a person. Then we fast forward and we get 2 more murders in the same town. So at this point, I'm like, dang, we got 3 bodies. We got 3 bodies in this short amount of time. It's getting buck wild in this city, right? Like, it's really turned up right now. And if I were living in the city, like, I would be scared, like those people in that town hall meeting, like, is it giving a serial killer or not? Because I'm about to pack me and my family and get up out of here because what's going on, So, like, what's actually happening? And it's crazy because, now that you have all 3 of those, like, deceased victims, somehow it's crazy that they all end up being tied together. They all knew each other. They all went to high school together. And they all happen to be Anna's old friends. So at that point in the show, I'm like, okay, is it Anna? Right? Like, is Anna the killer? So whiplash, right? I'm thinking it's Jack. Then I'm thinking it's Anna. Like, what? And then we get the plot twist that genuinely gagged me down. We end up learning, like, extreme lore to the story that really brings everything together. And it's like a 20-year-old secret that gets unleashed to us as the audience. So basically we see that, after Anna disappeared, her mom was feeling worried and she was feeling, guilty. And she ended up watching Anna's old home videos. And on one of the tapes, she had discovered footage from Anna's 16th birthday. And that tape ended up revealing that Anna and another girl named Catherine, they were led into the woods by their friends, quote unquote, because they weren't really friends. But so they thought at the time. They were led into the woods by these friends, and alcohol was involved. They're 16. Okay, yay, we're giving young a turn. It's 2 of our B-Day, right? And those friends, ended up inviting boys over, but Catherine and Anna didn't know about the boys, right? And they attempted to sexually assault Catherine. So that's when Anna stepped in and she was like, wait, like, we're not about to do that, right? Like, y'all need to relax. So she does what she's supposed to, do, and she decides to be a decent human being and help prevent this horrific situation from happening. So after she steps in, Catherine's able to get, away. She runs away, and she's in the thought process of, okay, Anna set me up, right? Like, Anna knew about this too. But Anna, like I said, was just as clueless. She was like, girl, like, I didn't know about any of this. And then that ends up causing Anna herself to be sexually assaulted while the 3 other friends just sat there and watched and sang happy birthday. Happy birthday, dear Anna. The way that I almost threw up watching that scene, like, what? Like, oh my God, like it's sick. It's horrifying. Like it's twisted. It's demented. Like I cannot believe like at 16 that they would be capable of like enabling such like horrific behavior. Like what? That's all I can say is what? So once we learn this information as an audience member, like this is now a moment where this kind of reframes the entire story. So now we as an audience know about this, and Anna's mom now knows about it. But the thing is, I low-key am assuming, because the way it was set up, I think that Anna's trauma, like from this event, ended up like being so severe that she repressed what actually happened that night. And she like ended up never telling anyone about it, not even her mom. So when her mom finds that tape after Anna disappears and she finally watches it over 20 years later, we see that she's enraged, right? Like, huh? Like as a mom, you just see that these three girls are responsible for your daughter being sexually assaulted. Like hecky nah. Like I can't imagine what that feels like as a parent, and then knowing that it's been over 20 years and you never knew about this. Like that's so sad. So that's when, you know, we go forward and we end up learning the truth that Anna's mother is actually the killer. Gaggy, gaggy, gaggy. Like maybe some people saw that coming, but me personally, I did not see that coming. Like the way that her mom had us all, well, at least me, like bamboozled Bootsy, bamboozled Bootsy. Like she had me bamboozled down, bro. Cause I'm like, girl, my jaw's on the ground. I did not expect this to be you. Like, not sweet old Anna's mom. Are you kidding me? So she was like, you know what? I gotta do something about this, right? I just saw what I saw. These three girls are responsible for causing my daughter pain. We need to move in action. And that's what she does. She sets up a plan and then she pretends to have dementia so that no one suspects that it's her. And she hunts down each of the women that were involved, right, in setting Anna up to be assaulted that night. And she kills every single one of them, all three of the girls. And, you know, one of those girls happened to be Jack's sister, right? Anna's husband. She was like, listen, I know that my daughter is technically married to this man and that is his sister, but she did what she did and she gotta go. So I was like, oh my God. So it's like, honestly, it's disturbing, right? Seeing an elderly woman like become a serial killer, but at the same time, like I personally understood where she was coming from. She's a mom and she's just hurt by, you know, what happened to her daughter. And in the end, you know, I thought it was nice that like Anna and Jack, you know, get back together after all of this, and they end up having to raise, you know, Jack's niece because, you know, Anna's mom killed her mom, killed Jack's niece's mom. And they also try for another baby. So it fast forwards to a year later, seeing Anna be pregnant again. I'm like, oh, like they're gonna have a, you know, baby number 2. And then we see that Anna's mom, you know, leaves her a letter confessing everything. And she explains that, you know, she was the killer because, like I said, you know, those women were responsible for hurting her child. And that's when you learn, like, this is what this story is really about at the end of the day. It's about grief, it's about trauma, and it's about a mother's love. On top of that, a Black mother's love, okay? I love the fact that we were able to get a Black lead in this story and have her also have, you know, a Black mother. That was really nice. Like, rarely are you seeing, like, women serial killers, let alone, like, Black women serial killers. So that was, like, pretty interesting to watch. So, yeah. And, like, I feel like also the question that the show leaves you with is, what would you do to protect your child, right? Like, what would you do to avenge them? So, yeah, like, in the end, that plot twist, like I said, really gagged me. And I think that it really, really was just the perfect, like, cherry on top to end this limited series and, like, make it all worth it in the end. So I'm really glad. But I remember after I finished watching it, I was talking to my dad about the series and I was, like, explaining basically everything that happened. And he feels like there was also a plot hole because he was like, I don't personally think that the mom needed to, like, pretend to have dementia because he says he doesn't think that anyone would have even guessed that it was her, like, as the killer to begin with. Like, you didn't even need to be like, oh, I'm lost. I'm walking naked in the woods. I'm, making eggs with shells in them. Because I don't think that anyone would have been like, yup, it's Anna's mom who did it. Like, no one's going to assume that a little old lady did it. So you don't even need to add the dementia to it. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. Maybe the whole dementia bit was like her gagging it a little bit, but she was like, I want to sell it. I want to give theatrics. I want to give Oscar winning performance. Like, I may as well make this fun and worth my time because these people, they need to pay. So let me be Liddy and put on a show. And a show she put on Indeed. So if you guys haven't watched His and Hers, already, I would highly recommend that you watch it on Netflix. I really enjoyed it. So, like I said, going forward, I'm going to keep trying to find some more, mystery thrillers. And especially if it's a limited series, like, sign me up. So let me know in the comments on YouTube or on Spotify. Do you guys have any other recommendations for me to watch that kind of like are in this, world of like mystery thriller? I would love to get your recommendations so that way I can continue to keep watching, shows throughout this winter because I'm locked and loaded at this point, sweetie, period. Next topic. I also wanted to make sure that I talked about this because I came across this video on Barb the Drag Queen's YouTube channel. And if you guys don't know, for those who don't, regularly watch my channel, but those who do, y'all know, I love RuPaul's Drag Race. So I'm like consistently watching Bob the Drag Queen's videos on his channel. And I also watch his podcast with Monet Exchange, Sibling Rivalry. So I already be tapped in. So it was really interesting to me when I see that he uploaded this video a couple days ago, and it's called The MAGA-fication of Nicki Minaj, a Bob the Drag Queen cultural investigation. And I was like, ooh, like, what is this about? And I watched it. I think it was around like 17 minutes long, and I loved this video. I really, really liked it. And if you guys are interested, be sure to watch his video after you finish this episode. I'll be sure to link it in the description on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. But in case you don't, just to give you like a brief overview, Bob basically breaks down how, Nicki Minaj used to be this like untouchable figure in pop culture, especially for Black women, right? And just Black communities in general. And queer people. She wasn't just a rapper, he says. She was representation. And he goes on to talk about how, she felt like she was someone who protected us, and she pushed back, and she made space for people who didn't always feel seen. But he also mentions that at the same time, the industry changed. And he says that, Nicki started reacting to criticism differently, right? We all saw that. She became defensive, and she, was framing everything as an attack or a conspiracy. And, she was going on Twitter rants and, live rants and all of these things. And she was leaning into grievance and, culture war language. And, he says that instead of like curiosity or growth, it became about resentment and loyalty and feeling silenced. And, as I kept watching, personally, the part that like stood out to me though, when like Bob was talking about all of this, was when he gets to the point of the video where he discusses the 5 stages of grief when it comes to, the Barbs and what like we're dealing with Nicki Minaj right now. Because, that hit a little close to home, because I'm someone who, used to be a huge Barb. And you guys, know that I've talked about her, on my podcast. Like when Pink Friday 2 came out, I was super excited. I absolutely loved that album, and, went to the tour and everything. So it's just been a really difficult time, like dealing with what's going on right now. So, as he was discussing, like I said, the 5 stages of grief and his, video, like that was something that I could really see myself in, the initial denial, the bargaining, the frustration, like all of it, right? So I want to play like the clip in his video where he talks about that, because I think that it kind of explains why this whole thing with Nicki has been hard for a lot of people. So let's go ahead and watch the clip now.
This part of the video I want to direct toward the Barbs, because I know what y'all are going through. I was never a Barb. I was a Nicki fan. Was I a Nicki fan? I was a Nicki fan. I was a big Nicki fan. But the Barbs were on a different level. And I understand you guys are going through grief. This is truly grief, right? And it's not just that you like Nicki Minaj, especially for those of you who are like in your 20s. Nicki Minaj has been with you since you were in elementary school. You quote her every day. You dressed as her for Halloween. And it felt like when she was succeeding, you were succeeding. So when she's losing, it feels like you're losing. And that makes a lot of sense. So let's look at the stages of grief. Stage 1, denial. Nicki can't have lost it all. Nicki's still the queen of rap. Nicki wouldn't do that. You're just misunderstanding her. You have to be in denial because you're grieving the relationship that you thought you had with Nicki Minaj. You're grieving what she represented. Nicki's song was playing on your girls' trip. Nicki's song, when it's the moment you walked off stage, you went to the club, and you all, everyone, when the Nicki, when Monster came on, you were all in a circle. Everyone in the club was screaming, "Pull up in that Monster automobile, gangsta, with a bad bitch that came from street." We were all in the club screaming it together. Everyone felt united because we felt like we were rallying behind this powerful woman. So yeah, you're gonna be in denial about that. Then you start bargaining. Step 2, well, maybe she said that because of this. Maybe she did that because of this. Well, have you considered this? Have you thought about what she's gone through? So obviously, you're gonna start bargaining with yourself and with people around you who have already left the camp, because everyone doesn't go to the stage at the same time, right? You're arguing with someone who's already on stage 5. So you're like, no, hear me out. So when Nicki Minaj gets on stage at the Turning Points USA, you think to yourself, there has to be some higher meaning to this.
What people misunderstand about me now, I don't care about it. I really don't. In fact, I love that they misunderstand me now.
Step 3, anger. Now you're mad. Because again, we're not just when people criticize Nicki Minaj, it doesn't feel like a criticism of her. It feels like a criticism of every moment in your life that is connected to Nicki Minaj. So obviously you're gonna feel angry because it feels like an attack on you. Stage 4, depression. Baby, I get it. You are now in a bad mood. And it's not anger. It's because anger is when you're mad at the world. Depression is when you're mad at yourself. Because you are coming to the realization, have I been on the wrong side of history? Did I not jump ship soon enough? And then finally, you hit stage 5. This is acceptance. They not like us. So yeah, you're going to go to the stages. And I want you to know right now, you're valid. Maybe you're not on stage 5. Maybe you're not even on stage 1 yet. Maybe you're still stuck on stage 1. You're in denial. No, it couldn't be my queen, because you rode hard for her. The MAGA-fication of Nicki Minaj is not about red hats or party lines. It is about resentment replacing curiosity, control replacing collaboration, power replacing play. And listen, once that shift happens, the art always suffers.
So yeah, that part of the video specifically, like I said, really got to me. And I feel like what I appreciated most about what Bob was saying was the fact that he doesn't necessarily shame, Barb's for ever loving Nicki. He doesn't act like, we were stupid or we were wrong for ever connecting with her. He shows empathy for, the people who were or still are genuinely struggling with the fact that she's not who we thought she was. So, for me personally, like, her antics over the last couple of years have been really disappointing, and letting go has not been like an easy process, right? Like, there's a lot of nostalgia for her, with me and my life, like, tied up in like my childhood, right? Like, her music just used to mean so much to me. And honestly, going through all of this has like low-key felt like losing a version of myself too. Like, at the end of the day, I don't know Nicki, right? It's not like, oh God, like, but it just sucks, right? Like, feelings and emotions are tied to music, and even though you're like, oh, y'all don't know these people, there still is that, emotional connection just on a like fan level, and you do feel that disappointment. And like I said, her music impacted me greatly in middle school and high school. So seeing her like at the Pink Friday 2 tour, at the time just felt like a dream come true, because I had never seen Nicki Minaj before. And it was such an incredible experience at the time, in that moment. So all that being said, at the same time, I know that like I can't and don't tolerate and don't want to ever excuse what she stands for now. Like, I don't stand by any of that, right? F this administration. Like I always say, you guys know that I often have existential crisis, about what's going on in this country, them constantly going after immigrants, women's rights. It's just sick and twisted and demented. So to stand by something like that as a influential public figure, It's just really disappointing. So, at the end of the day, I just feel like, all that being said, I know that like I can still grieve what she meant to me and still choose not to support her anymore or what she stands for anymore. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up and this video up because I feel like Bob does a really good job at holding space for that complexity. Like he said, us people in our 20s, like this was our childhood. And I specifically remember like when Nicki came out, at the time when she debuted, there was no other like girl rappers for real. And she was mainstream, and like he mentions in the video, like she was everywhere. She was music, it seemed like, at that time. Like when Pink Friday album came out, that entire album just like changed my entire relationship with music for the better, in that moment. And we don't really know the reason why she's doing what she's doing, and that's none of our business, but we can choose, what we choose to support. And I unfortunately can't support that. But, I think that I struggled for a long time because then, you feel like shame, right? And you feel guilt because, like you said, oh, well, maybe I should have, left the fandom sooner. And, oh, I feel so silly for like ever standing this person. And, oh, I should have known, all celebrities are just going to be celebrities. Like I dealt with those emotions. But at the same time, like you said, like, it's okay. You go through the grief, and we don't know these people. We didn't know any better. Like you said, we were kids when she first came into our life, a lot of our lives. So you know better. Once you're an older person, you do better. So yeah, I just really appreciate Bob holding space, like I said, for that. And to any Barbs, that are out there, or I should say like ex-Barbs who are in the same boat as me, I see you guys. We are standing in solidarity in our period of grief and mourning what once was, onto new things, onto brighter things. And we just gotta let Miss Onika Tanya do what she gonna do and stay in the past, stay in our past, and let her just be part of our core memories. Like Inside Out, the movie, Pixar, she's gonna be part of those core memories, and that just is what it is. We gotta leave her there. Okay, it's time for favorite thing of the week. Favorite thing of the week. Favorite thing of the week. My favorite thing of the week this week has to be, hands down, the new Fortnite collab that they just did with The Office. OMG, guys, you know that I love The Office. I talk about it quite often, and I have been watching it for the first time over the last year. Don't ask me what season I'm on. I really don't know. I've watched a lot of it, and I think I'm like halfway through, but there's so much Office to catch up on, given that it's been on since 2005 or something like that. But I have gotten like through a big chunk of it enough to know like a lot of the lore. So being able to see this collab on Fortnite was been like such an exciting thing. Like I was genuinely like jumping for joy down when I saw that they were doing this, because I love Fortnite. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I play Fortnite sometimes on my game nights on my YouTube channel on Wednesdays, and nobody's saying I'm like the best Fortnite player ever, right? But it's something that I enjoy, and I love playing it, with my boyfriend. I've had, built a little community with people that I game with on there, and it's really fun. So seeing that they did that collab, I had to get it as soon as possible. And shout out to my boyfriend, he got it for me. And I think it comes with like 12 items. So you also get Dwight, right, as a skin, and then you get a Michael Scott skin. Like, I love the fact that they chose them too. But could you imagine if we would have got like a Stanley or like a Phyllis or even just a Jim and Pam? Like, I just feel like they really slept on the opportunity to be able to get more characters. I don't know why it was just Michael and Dwight, but at the end of the day, it also, like, if you're gonna choose any two characters and you can only do two, I guess it would make sense to do Michael and Dwight, right? But, you have the manager and then the assistant to the regional manager. It makes sense. So, yeah, And I like the fact that with each skin, with Michael, there's like 3 different options for you to wear. I think it's one with him like regular. You can wear one with him wearing sunglasses, and then another one with him wearing a hat. And then Dwight, his is like with or without a jacket. And then he also has an option where he wears that mask on his face from the episode where he carved out that CPR dummy's face and put it on top of his. That episode was so funny to me, but that mask is so creepy, but at the same time, I love it. So the fact that people are running around as Dwight with that CPR dummy mask on is sick. And then they also have a lot of like interesting accessories that I really love. Like Michael, you know, he has the world's best boss like mug back bling as an option for you to wear. And I really love like running around with the back bling because it also has coffee in it. So the coffee like splashes around. There's sometimes splashes out of the cup, and that's really cool. And then like there's also an option where you have the CPR dummy to like wear as a back bling. So you'll be running around and the CPR dummy is on your back with its face cut out. Like that is absolutely sick. So really, really love that collab. And I also have a creator code with Fortnite. So if you guys play Fortnite and you're interested in getting this bundle, be sure to go to the item shop on Fortnite, and before you purchase it, there's an option at the bottom where you can like type like support a creator or something. Like there's a button you can click, and if you enter code KMarie, KAEMARIE, then you will be supporting, you know, my content, my gaming content, you know, going forward. And I think it expires like every 14 days. So you have to like enter my code like every 2 weeks, basically. So just want to put that out there. You know, it's free, right? If you guys, you know, want to support me. But yeah, so I'm really excited about, you know, future Fortnite collabs coming out. It's just really exciting and really fun. And my other favorite thing of the week, let me see. I wrote it down, but I forgot. Oh, yes. We're also getting a new Bratz album. So this new album is coming out on January 30th. So I think that's the day that this episode comes out. And it's called Bratz Angels. And I was really excited about this because we have not had a Bratz album since 2008. And y'all know I love the Bratz. Like, this is so exciting. And one thing that I really like about the Bratz so far that they've been doing is, you know, we all know that the company itself like shut down for years, and now they are in their comeback era, and they are back and better than ever. And they have been releasing new dolls, new collections, new outfits, and all of them have been absolutely incredible. I've got 3 Bratz dolls in my collection, and I honestly wish that I could get all of them. Like, they're all so cute. I really love what they've been doing, and the brand and like the direction that they've been going with these drops are just like, I wish they were around when I was young, you know, because I knew I would have been eating them up then, and I'm eating them up now. But with this new album, like I said, with it being called Bratz Angels, it's basically, I think the concept from what I could tell on their Instagram is they're going to be pop stars. So we technically have Bratz Rock Angels from back then where they're like rock stars, but this one is giving pop stars. Okay, so we got 2 different genres, 2 different, you know, very different like stars, right? So the aesthetics of the outfits so far give pop star. And the day that I'm recording this, they've already released, I think, 2 singles from it. One is Sasha's song, I think, and the other one is Chloe's song. I still haven't listened to them, but I'm just so excited because ever since Bratz has made their comeback, they've been dropping like singles here and there, right? But this is the first time that we're getting an album, like I said, since 2008. So like we're fully getting a body of work, and it's just so like nostalgic for me. It just makes my inner child like so excited and so happy, like, and just elated. Like, you guys don't even know, because I've said before, like, growing up on Bratz was everything to me, and I genuinely loved Bratz, you know, albums. Like I've said it before, my favorite album is Forever Diamonds. Bratz Forever Diamonds, like, as a kid and still to this day, is something that I listen to at almost 30 years old, and I literally don't care. I don't have any shame. Like, that album is so good. Like, I spent countless hours roller skating in my basement in my childhood home, playing with my sister, playing dolls, just, everything. It just reminds me of like freedom, imagination, innocence, like just that carefree, like childlike wonder. So, listening to Bratz music, like as an adult, is just always like an escapism moment that always just makes me feel like so warm inside. So the fact that they're just continuing on with making a brand new album in 2026 is crazy to me. And I also saw the fact that they are working on like the Sasha song. I think they brought back one of the ladies who used to sing on their old music to sing on this song. So it's like, oh my goodness, like you got the same lady to do vocals from 20 years ago, like almost 20 years ago, basically. Like that is everything. So I'm excited, like, and I'm also nervous because will this album give exactly what it gave when we were kids? I'm sure not. But for the nostalgia purposes of it all, I'm geeked up. And even if the album doesn't hit and there aren't really any bangers, it's just like, just the simple fact that it's a thing now is just exciting. And worst case scenario, at least we get some cute dolls out of it. So shout out to Bratz. I cannot wait I'm so excited, for this release and to get these dolls. Like, I've been supporting Bratz since day one. And if you would have asked me when I was in third grade, I would still be like basically 30 and still loving them like literally as much as I do, I would have been like, no. But like, no, I still love them. So I'm so excited, clearly. But yeah, that's all I got for today. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I had, fun talking about the Netflix show, my favorite things of the week, and, getting to the gags with Bob the Drag Queen. So shout out to him for making that video. Like I said, be sure to check that out, support his channel. Be sure to also follow me on social media. I have my Instagram and my TikTok at A Little Bit A Lot Podcast. And like I said at the beginning, if you're watching on YouTube, give this video a like. It really helps. Comment down below to let me know. Are you excited about the Bratz collab? What did you think about his and hers? Do you have any other, murder thriller recommendations for me? And subscribe. Like I said, we're almost to that 1K, so I'd really appreciate it if you hit that button if you haven't already. And be sure to follow me on my other, accounts. I say it all the time, but if you guys don't know, I do have a coloring account where I do adult coloring and I do blind box openings and stuff like that. So if you're interested in like, other creative things like that are more into like artsy rather than just like me yapping, you can follow me at Coloring with Kristen on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And like I said, on Wednesdays on this channel on YouTube, we do gaming. And if you want to see clips from my gaming and stuff like that, then you can follow that TikTok gaming clip account at Gaming with Kristen. And I also have a second podcast that I'm now a co-host of. It's called Everything 2000s Podcast. And this week that I'm recording this, we just dropped episode 3, and it's about Hairspray, the movie from 2007. So be sure to check that out. Go, mama, go, go, go. Hey, mama, welcome to the 60s. Ugh. Love that movie. I said in the episode, Tracy Turnblad was the plus size representation that I needed as a kid. So being able to talk about my favorite scenes from this film on that podcast with my friend Shalina was so much fun. So if you want to check out that podcast, that airs every other Wednesday, and you can find that at Everything 2000s Podcast on YouTube, or you can search Everything 90s Podcast on Spotify and Apple, because technically Everything 2000s is a spinoff of her show Everything 90s. So everything will be linked in the description. So overall, I'm just saying there's so many different options to interact with my content. Gaming, blind boxes, 2 podcasts, like we offer it all. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me, guys. And with that, I will see you guys next week. Bye.
Cause I make rich look richer. Save your breath, baby, I'm not going home with ya.